Boy oh boy, have I been busy. So, I started working on the next big system, and it's kind of going out of hand. So, I want to add special effects to weapons. And not just weapons, I also want to utilize the offhand slot, because I know a lot of people don't generally use shields. So, we can create more functionality out of it than just being able to equip a shield or hold an extra item. And so far, I've come up with a interesting crafting system. So it's similar to what we used before, but I've actually used a structure this time rather than a single block. So the system currently just adds the lore tag. We grab out the amethyst and an ender pearl. Just like before, you have to use an anvil, name it a certain parameter. For instance, one of the tags is storm. And if you were to drop all your amethyst shards, so a whole stack, the ender pearl, and anything of your choice, doesn't have to be a weapon, it could be a stick, a bucket. The ender pearl and the amethyst gets eaten, and now we have a stick with storm 1. And I've come up with about 30 different effects. Granted, I haven't built any of them yet. I've only built the trading system, but it's going to be quite big. Even the trading system, there's 5 tiers. So standard, or just 1, 2, 3 max, and then PvP variety, which will mean the abilities only trigger on players. Now, how are we going to make the abilities trigger? Well, I talked about before, I'm going to use the scoreboard system extensively, and I'm going to use the pre-made statistic ones. So for instance, it said I'm using damage dealt. So every time we deal damage to something, you can see it's putting 1 in the chat. And I've had a bit of trouble with this, and we'll get into why. But essentially, the way it's set up is we've just added the scoreboard. I've just called it melee. And every time that the player's melee score is greater than 1, it's going to say 1, and then it's going to reset their score. Now on this side, I have say 2, and also reset the score. So the first big hurdle is command blocks are positional. So this one runs before this command block, meaning that the score gets reset before this command block can even operate. In my head, that doesn't make sense because in a tick sense, it should go, play gets a score, tick updates, these command blocks run because the score suits the need, and then in the next tick, this command block runs and deletes the score. That's obviously not the case because it's running in this sort of direction, where this first command block is ran, whatever it is, 20th of a tick sooner than this command block, and therefore the score gets deleted before this command block can be utilized. We delete this one, we can go ahead, and now it says 1 and 2. And the reason the 1 and 2 is important is because, like I said, I want to utilize both the main hand and the offhand. And the only way to do that is to have 2 command blocks running that both check either the main hand or the offhand. Because you can use the slots tag, but if you don't put one, then the item would simply have to be in the inventory, meaning you could have all 30 effects at once, and I don't want that. The way I'm having it is you can pick 2 out of the 30 effects, or you can double up if you want, and have them trigger. So, the next step. Well, we have to essentially convert whatever this is into actually running our effect. I'm also going to make a scoreboard for each effect, rather than just have, for instance, melee damage dealt, because again, we're going to run into issues of when exactly this scoreboard is reset. Because the only way to properly do it would be to move this, we'll just call it resetting command block, to the very end. Because my understanding is command blocks run in the positive direction, and then the height. So it runs along the positive X, then the positive Z, which I think is actually that way, and then it goes up a level. That's why this command block is not running. If I were to put this command block underneath, it'd actually be the same issue. There's no way I could functionally put it unless I put the 2 command blocks underneath and then this to the left, because then this command block would operate before this command block. It's very confusing, and I'm glad I figured it out, because it's kind of what ruined some of my other systems. for instance, why I had to use this many command blocks to fill in redstone, because my two commands, which one that modifies the data and one that deletes the other item, were running back to front because they're in the wrong direction on the x-axis. They're going in the negative direction when they need to be going in the positive direction to run in the correct order. And I know that's a mouthful. I hope you understood. But anyway, we'll go over the trading system and go examine how exactly I did the structure. It should be this line. So yeah, there's 30 for each item, or sorry, for each modifier, and there's actually 2 per thing. There's one to give it the lore tag, so whatever this one is, toxic one, and then one to delete the other 2 items, the amethyst shard and ender pearl in the case we use. So, how did we determine the structure? Well, very simple, we just use the if block a lot. So, it's detecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, do I count the 2 up there? 9 blocks. And that being, there needs to be an amethyst block, wherever it is. Should be near the top. Oh, it's right here. The amethyst block needs to be 1 block below, needs to have crying obsidian 1 block below, and then in every direction, so negative, negative, and then positive, positive. And then also needs salt campfire 2 blocks under, so that has to be 1 under the amethyst. Yeah, it's very confusing. You can imagine me trying to map it out mentally in my head. All in all, you just have to sort of figure it out from wherever you're starting. So the item drop there, and then you just have to count however blocks you're building around. And each of them, unfortunately, has to be a separate line. There is a if blocks, but my understanding is that's just a number of blocks rather than any set blocks. I can't figure out how to actually define an exact block to look for. But anyway, it's been a lot of writing. I got it done. Just have to copy and paste them all in, and the trade system's done. The big thing to work on now is that actual special effect. So, unfortunately, I haven't built all the systems, but I have one of each different sort of mechanic. So let's go ahead and make them all. They'll disappear. We can grab out our axe. Now it's storm. I do like this little forge system. It's a bit more, what's the word? It looks cooler because of the smoke particle. Thought that was a nice touch. And I can go ahead and add sound to it, just like the other one. Right, lucky last. So, we've got Storm, Onslaught, Barrier, Ambush, and Traveler. So we put one in our hand, so this is Ambush. We sneak. After about, I think it's 5 seconds, we get invisibility for also 5 seconds. And the way the tiers work for this one, for instance, is each improvement, so Ambush 2, Ambush 3, and then Ambush Max, give longer lasting invisibility. So the idea being you can sneak around, turn it on, and at greater levels you can stay for a lot longer. Storm, you saw before, I have fixed up the system, so it's every 3rd hit. You can see the counter. And the way it works is it targets any entity between 1 and 5 blocks away from you. That's why it's not always the one you're hitting, which is fine. I think that's a nice mechanic. And as the levels improve, more entities can be selected. So further levels, again, Storm 1, 2, and 3, or I, because I'm using Roman numerals, can then hit multiple targets. So it's really impactful for groups. Unfortunately, I killed everyone. Grab out zombie egg. So for Onslaught, this mechanic now works off of kills. So you can see as Storm went up, we changed this over to objectives, set display. I sure do have a lot of them though here, but we type in Onslaught. So I've got 1. It goes away because that's my 2nd kill, and I get speed, strength, and haste. So every 2 kills, you get your buffs. So you can try and keep up the momentum. For this one, it's always going to be 5 seconds because I don't want it to be too continuous. I want it to have the impact that you have to continue hunting. But once you get to max, I think it's strength 9, so you should be able to really clear things out. The netherite hoe is barrier, so if we go ahead and hop into game mode survival, this one now runs off of the player taking damage. I'm just going to heal myself up. 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hit, and I have absorption. Fortunately, the text bar is covering it. It should be 4 hearts at level 1. It lasts for about 10 seconds. It's just a neat way to sort of prevent damage. Last one we have is Traveler, which is on the bow. So we do have to head back into survival. Hopefully nothing finds me. I'm going to give myself health again and saturation. So the way this one works, and I'll turn the score table on. Ooh, tab. So again, if we highlight the scoreboard, this is called Traveler. So you can see on the right there, it's 19. If I sprint, it goes up. So the way Traveler works is it goes off of distance sprinted. So I have it set to 1,000. Don't ask me what that is in blocks, because I have no way to convert it. Once this counter gets to 1,000, it should refill, I think it's 1 whole hunger at this point. Yeah, so it filled back 1 notch of hunger. We're running every 1,000 blocks. Every 1,000 on the counter. The way it works out is that amount of distance is equal to losing 3 notches of hunger. So at level 1, you've got, was that a 33% increase in how far you can essentially travel. And at max, it is essentially infinite, because by the time you lose 3, you get healed 3. And again, you can combine these. So, for instance, if I put Onslaught in there and then go back to my axe, I can swap back over to Creative, and we can go back into the dark where nothing has spawned, unfortunately. We can go ahead and spawn a few zombies, and we can get to work. So everything's still triggering the lightning. You can see up there I've got all my buffs. So the way the system works is you can have 2 active, 1 in your offhand, 1 in your main hand. And the way this is accomplished is with too many command blocks. And I know I've made the claim that I don't ever want to use repeating command blocks, but my understanding is because we're searching for players, that this is not an issue. The number of command blocks I have is fine, because on a small scale server, it should be fine. Large scale server, I'm not too sure. Obviously, in a single player world, it's only scanning me every tick, to put it in a simple way. As for the scoreboard, they have to be repeating command blocks. Otherwise, the score won't tick appropriately. And all we're doing is searching the player's inventory, like we have before. 106, negative 106 is the offhand. As for the main hand, we have to use a different method, because the numbering is a bit weird. The wiki says, I think it's like 99, but I think that's bedrock, because there is no designated main hand. Like this is slot 0, and so on. So we've had to change it to selected item. That means you can have it in any hotbar, and as long as it's selected, the effect will run. And then, yeah, so one side's the offhand, and one side's the selected item, and they're just the same effect. Basically, 5 different levels, 1, 2, 3, max, and PvP. So PvP will only target players. So for instance here, it's searching entities, in this case only players. The way I have to do this though, so it doesn't target the actual person swinging the weapon, is with this distance parameter. So this is searching 1 to 5 blocks. So it will never target the player, because the player is always going to be at 0, and, well, limit 1. There's a few that I'm not too sure how to handle, like the Traveler, which gives back hunger. How to make that impactful in PvP, I was thinking maybe give hunger to the opponent. Not too sure. I have to think about those ones. Damage ones are very simple, and like Onslaught, it's high levels, and if you kill players, so like PvP, it could be interesting. So all these are the scoreboards. This is for running off of damage dealt, mob kills, damage taken. Block, I can't show off because I have to rewrite a lot of things. I don't want the tooltip for block. For instance, one of them is just called reflect, and that doesn't really highlight that it needs to go on a shield. So all of them I've had to rewrite as like reflecting block, which means I have to go through and change a lot of commands. What else? We've got sneak, which was the iron bar. Should function if I still hold shift here. No, it doesn't count as sneaking. Interesting. So as we sneak, we get invisibility. And then the last one is, of course, sprint 1 centimeter, which all of them are being converted into a single digit. That way I can separate each different special effect. So for instance, here we have healer and traveler. There is one other glaring issue that I sort of have to fix. You can give a item multiple lore tags. So if I grabbed out some more amethyst, ender pearl, and we go back to the anvil, and we'll just name it storm, is simple enough. So for instance, if I were to drop a sword, which has onslaught on it, you do have to do it the other way, because it is a bit tedious, because it will delete the items depending on what tick. This way should give the sword. Yeah, so this sword now has onslaught and storm, which unfortunately I don't want. I want a single special effect per item. There's a simple way to adjust that, but it does mean I have to, see, I got both effects up there. The ball killed skeleton, I guess. Oh, I would have had one kill from before. So yeah, so everything I built for the 60 command blocks that are in here, I will have to delete and redo. It doesn't matter which one I click. Essentially here, where it has append, I need to use the set, which also means I have to change this, because we're not adjusting the lore, we're adjusting inside the brackets, which is a bit confusing. I think it's actually curlies. I'll probably go over it at the start of the next one, but I think that'll do for now. A lot to sort of continue working on and building. It's going to take me a little bit. I have another 60 times 4, well, plus this one, so 300 command blocks to copy and paste, plus all of the effects, which is another 60 by 5, so another 300. So I have 600 command blocks to, unfortunately, place and then copy and paste off of a Word document, and that gets very repetitive, so I have to take breaks. I'll probably end up doing this system just like the mob tower, where I do it little by little. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. See ya.